Hello, American Patriots. Douglas Ducote here. The plot thickens with the Durham investigation, and it moves closer and closer to an indictment of Hillary Rodham Clinton. Now, this video is a little long, I agree, but I hope that you will bear with me because it's very important that you understand where we're at right now, or where Durham is with this investigation. And hopefully we will see more people indicted and possibly even Hillary herself. Because from everything that I'm fixing to share with you, there is absolutely no reason that she should not be the target of this investigation. Last week, John Durham's grand jury issued its third criminal indictment in the Russia-Trump collusion hoax. It shows that special counsel probe is unraveling a huge conspiracy, all of it engineered by Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016, and implicating James Comey's FBI, either as a willing participant or is utterly incompetent. The latest indictment also damages the mainstream media, which is why so many news outlets have ignored or underplayed it. After all, they broadcast a false story for years and are none eager to revisit it. Other losers are the prosecutors assembled by Robert Mueller, most of them Democrats, who had reamed with his damaged information and ignored it. What Durham and a few reporters are uncovering may well be the most ambitious dirty trick pulled in an American election and its aftermath. The question now is whether Durham can expose the full extent of this malfeasance and charge those who planned and executed it. Durham's latest indictment charges Igor Danchenko, with lying multiple times to the FBI. Danchenko, who worked at the Brookings Institute as a Russian expert, may not be a household name, but he was a critical player in concocting the false story that Donald Trump was collaborating with the Kremlin to win the White House. The real conspiracy, it turns out, was aimed at Trump and was conducted by the Clinton campaign and her longtime advocates. It was financed jointly by Clinton's campaign and the Democrat National Committee. Period. We know that. It is a fact. Some leaked emails suggest it was even approved by Hillary Clinton herself. The FBI continued running with it long after it had ample evidence to know it was false. House Democrats ran with it even longer, basking in unethical media coverage. All of it was false. The Danchenko indictment matters because his bogus information was the heart of the Steele dossier, which in turn was the heart of the anti-Trump investigation. The dossier was complied by a former British spy, Christopher Steele, who had been hired by people working for Clinton. Steele claimed his information about Trump, including sexual allegations, came from Russian sources. It did not. It came from Danchenko, who was working at a Washington think tank. As Danchenko admitted to the FBI, much of what he told Steele was nothing more than rumors and exaggeration. Some of it appears to have been simply fabricated. Steele incorporated it, and the Democrats deployed it. The FBI interviewed Danchenko multiple times in January of 2017, around the time Trump was taking office. Comey's FBI had already received the dossier, and his agents were trying to verify its allegations. They couldn't do so, and Danchenko's admissions told them why. His interrogation should have immediately stopped the FBI from using the dossier to investigate Trump. So should a warning from Bruce Orr, the highest-ranking career official in the Department of Justice, that Steele was strongly biased. The FBI blew right through these red lights. Make no doubt about that. The Bureau continued to use the bogus information in applying for secret warrants from the Foreign Intelligence Service Court, FISA, to spy on Carter Page, and through him on others with Trump. Officials told the court falsely that the warrant information was reliable and verified when they knew that it was neither. What the warrant says, in essence, is we need to spy on Carter Page because we think he's an enemy agent. But the FBI already knew he wasn't. That means they were trolling for other information. How did the FBI know Page was on our side? Because they asked the CIA and were told quite explicitly that Page was helping them, not the Kremlin. The CIA gave the exploratory information to the FBI, Kevin Kleinsmith, who altered the message to say Page was not working for the CIA. His alternation was criminal, and he pleaded guilty after Durham charged him. The story gets worse. Although Kleinsmith altered the CIA's message for FBI use, he also gave his superiors the CIA's true communication, so his bosses knew the real story. They weren't interested in the truth. In no time were they ever interested in the truth, which they kept secret from the FISA court to continue spying on Page. If there is any justice left in Washington, those responsible for this travesty will be held criminally liable. But I'm not holding my breath, and I don't think you should either. Page may well have a civil case against him too. As the FBI blundered forward in its political mission, it made other revealing missteps. The most important was Director Comey's meeting with the incoming president in January of 2017. Comey told Trump the FBI had acquired some damning materials about him, but emphasized they were still unverified. As Comey's own aides warned him that communication could be seen as a kind of blackmail threat, the kind that marked J. Edgar Hoover's tenure. Comey's meeting with the president had other major consequences. Until then, even anti-Trump news outlets had been wary about mentioning the dossier, which the Clinton team had been shopping to them because they couldn't actually verify any of the vital details. That changed with Comey's briefing, which was news in its own right. The story now became FBI's chief briefs President-elect Trump about the dossier, revealing damning info Kremlin could use to blackmail Trump. One online outlet, BuzzFeed, went further. It published the full Steele dossier, and the media frenzy began. Remember, this whole story was made up and paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign and fed to the FBI and the media by her attorneys and associates. And right now, so far, 3 of which have been indicted. By her attorneys and associates, the FBI, which should have been able to quickly prove the story was false, plotted on with its investigation and fed the frenzy. Although the dossier was commissioned to sink Trump in November, it was still useful after he won the election. Trump's advisories could exploit it to hamstring his administration, and that's exactly what they did. With the wholehearted backing of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff spent 3 years beating the drum of the Russia collusion hoax. Schiff's constant media appearance claiming he had conclusive evidence of Trump's Russia collaboration continued long after he had received classified briefings that demolished his story. The briefer was former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe, and he has confirmed those meetings with Schiff and his Senate counterpart, Mark Warner. No matter to Schiff, who kept repeating his claim and pursuing his full-scale investigation. First the verdict, then the inquiry. It was all part of a 4-year-long battle. First to prevent Trump's election, then to undermine his presidency, and finally to damage his chances of re-election. The Clinton team launched its operation with professional expertise. The goal was to produce a powerful anti-Trump story using whatever means they could, then share it with the media to smear Trump, and the FBI to launch a major investigation to ensnare Trump. Ideally, the campaign environment would be hidden, removed from the damning report by several layers of lawyers, opposition researchers, camp followers, and flacks. To provide that insulation, the campaign used attorney Mark Ellis, then at Perkins Co. law firm in Washington, where he recently indicted Michael Sussman, who was a colleague, to hire an opposition research firm, Fusion GPS. That firm, headed by former reporters Glenn Simpson and Peter French, in turn hired Steele, a Brit who had formerly worked for his country's intelligence service, to produce the damning dossier. To translate some Russian material, Fusion GPS hired Nellie Orr, whose husband Bruce learned how biased Steele was and told the FBI to treat Steele with his information widely. Bureau agents ignored that early warning and all the others. They quickly learned Steele's material was a mirage, thanks to their interview with Danchenko. They also confirmed that Steele's dossier depended on Danchenko, so its claim of Russian sourcing was false. By interviewing Danchenko's own sources, they learned that their third-hand statements, which were used in the dossier, were mainly rumors and bar talk. The prosecutorial team, assembled by Robert Mueller, should have known all this too. They had complete access to this FBI material on day one, and they ignored it. A year and a half later, when Mueller himself testified before Congress, he didn't even know what Fusion GPS was, or at least that's what he said. By that point, Mueller seemed to have genuine difficulty remembering the details of his own investigation. His team of attorneys had no such excuse. Hired by Mueller's top deputy, Andrew Weissman, they were among the country's sharpest and toughest prosecutors and the most partisan. The more Durham uncovers, the worse the Mueller team will look. Reviewing this evidence, Kimberly Strauss of the Wall Street Journal has concluded the Steele dossier is actually misnamed. She said it should be called the Clinton dossier. She says since Hillary commissioned it, Hillary paid for it, and her aides fed it to the media, the State Department, and the FBI. It was a full-scale disinformation campaign, well organized and well funded. It was rotten to its core. The question now is whether John Durham can find enough evidence to charge the ones who planned and executed it. The charging documents he filed for Danchenko and Sussman are far more extensive than the necessary minimum. They suggest that Durham has compiled extensive evidence about a broader conspiracy. Will he settle for the capillaries now that he has the jugular in view? And the jugular would be Hillary Rodham Clinton. I know, and you know, there is not a snowball chance in hell that all this went down, bought and paid for by the Democrats, National Committee, and Hillary Clinton, that she didn't know anything about it. Damn near impossible. But we shall see in the coming days and months, hopefully not years, we will see this woman finally face justice. If Durham does what he was hired to do, which is rout out all the bad players. And right now, all the finger pointing goes right back to Hillary Clinton herself as the person who approved this to go down. If that turns out to be factual, the woman needs to be indicted. I'm sure right now she's running scared, and she should be. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America, and may God bless you. Hope you all have a wonderful and blessed evening. Remember to tune in right here to the Douglas Ducote Show live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central Time. Until then, take care, everyone, and I'll see you soon.